Journal question here from 6.6. So 6.6 gave you different proportionality theorems and different ways to find different values on pictures with parallel lines or with triangles with an angle bisector. Okay, so this one is my angle bisector. If I look right here in this angle, I notice congruent marks on either side of this angle that are the same. And we have a rule that an angle bisector splits an angle in half, but when it reaches the other side, it splits this other side proportionally. Not in half, but proportionally. And the setup I told you in class that I think makes it a little easier to remember is split side over adjacent side equals split side over adjacent side. And you know it sounds funny at first because I'm like, it says the same thing on both sides. But if we follow this, it's going to make it a little bit easier. Okay, so we need to do a little work here before we start this. Right now, we know this full side over here is 16. Well, we need something labeled on each of these splits so that we can find them. Now, it's easy to call the first one X. And we could call the second one Y, but we'd have to do systems of equations, which wouldn't be very fun right now. So let's stop and think. If this X, what would you say if this X was 5? Well, 16 minus 5 would make the other side 11. What if this X was 10? 16 minus 10 would be 6. What if this side was 12? 16 minus 12 would be 4. Well, do you hear that every time if we knew what that value was, we're subtracting it? So since we don't know what X is, I could just call this part 16 minus X, because whatever the X is, it'll come out to be that number. So now I have this split has a value. All right, so now what I'm going to do is fill in my proportion. So I'm going to choose one of my split sides. So one of my split sides is X. Its adjacent side is the side that touches it. Adjacent means touching. So I come over here to the side that touches it and I get 28. That's the left side of my proportion. So on the other side, I'm going to go the other split side, which is 16 minus X that we labeled it that way, and its adjacent side is going to be 36. Now my proportion is set up and I'm ready to solve for X. Multiply my extremes, I get 36X. When I go to multiply my means, I have a 2 term, which means I need a parenthesis, so 28 parenthesis 16 minus X. I'm going to distribute my 28, so 28 times 16 is 448. 28 times X is 28X. And this all equals 36X. All right, notice my 28X has a minus in front of it, so to get it to the other side, I'm going to add 28X to the other side. What I do to one side, I do to the other. That's going to give me 36 plus 28 is going to give me 64X, and it equals 448. To get X by itself, I'm just going to rewrite it here where I have some room. I have a 64 being multiplied times the X, so to get rid of multiplying by X, I divide by 64. And what I did to the left side, I do to the right. So this cancels. 448 divided by 64 gives me an answer of 7. All right, so what does 7 mean? It says find the values of the side the angle is splitting. So this bottom portion is 7. Well, what's 16 minus 7? Well, 16 minus 7 is 9, so the top part is 9. So the top of it is 9, the bottom is 7, and that's the proportional way that that was split. Also notice here, because it's kind of good to see this, that this X or 7 here is closer to the 28. The 9 is close to the 36. So the smaller two go together and the larger two go together. That's the proportional part that you're going to have a bigger with a bigger and a smaller with a smaller.